Good morning, friends. Welcome to the lecture of real analysis. In the last lecture, we have solved some examples of checking the integrability of the given function by Riemann sum method. The method we have followed is whatever is the given function f to us on the given interval. First, we have made the partition of the given interval by dividing the given interval into n equal parts. After this, we have noted what is the length of each subinterval. Then we have selected the point Pi and we have found the value of the Riemann sum SPF with the formula summation I equals to 1 to n f of Pi into delta xi. Then by further algebraic calculations, we have checked that whether the limit of this SPF exists or not. And if the limit of this SPF exists, according to the second definition, the function is integrable and whatever is the limiting value of the SPF is nothing but the integration value. Is a linear function 7x plus 3 on the closed interval 1 to 2. The second example we have solved is a function x square on the interval 3 to 10. Okay. In today's lecture, we will go for one more lecture. I hope you have solved all the examples which I have given for homework. These 4 examples I have given for the homework. Now in today's lecture, we will deal with one more example where the interval under the consideration consists of negative and positive values both. Okay, let me write that example. This is a seventh one, no? Example. So the example is compute integration minus 1 to 1 f of x dx, where f of x is equals to mod of x. F of x is equals to mod of x. Means we want to find out the integration value of mod of x on the interval minus 1 to 1. Now if we look at this interval, the interval consists of positive values as well as the negative values. Now again, first we will try to understand how this mod x is being defined. Then we will think of how this partition can be done. Okay. The function is defined as the function is mod of x. Can anyone tell me how the function is defined for x non-negative or x non-positive? What is the value of the function mod of x for x non-negative, x greater or equal by 0? And what is the value for x not equal, for x less than or equals to 0? Non-positive.
1 minus 1.
No, I want mod of x for x non-negative and for x non-positive. May I say, as the values of x are non-negative, what does it mean? See, this is the interval under the consideration, minus 1 to 1. This is my origin. Now we are considering all the values on the right of 0, no? Okay, these all the values are non-negative. Therefore, there is no use of writing it in the modulus. Therefore, may I say the function is x only for x non-negative, and what for x negative to this left part of 0? May I say it will be
Minus x.
good. This is minus x. Okay, this is the function defined. Now let me check whether the function is bounded on the given interval or not. Yes, function mod x on minus 1 to 1, bounded or not?
Yes, ma'am, bounded.
Yes, ma'am, bounded it is.
Yes, the function f is bounded because it takes all the values between minus 1 to plus 1 only. Function f is bounded and continuous also. The continuity is not needed. Bounded and continuous on minus 1 to 1. Now the next step we will try to go for making the partition of the given interval. What is the length of the interval? What is the length of this interval? 2,
ma'am.
because minus 1 to 1, minus 1 to 0, this is unit length. 0 to 1, it is again unit length. Therefore, the total length of this interval is 2. And if I want to make n equal subintervals. If I want to make n equal subintervals, what is the difficulty? Because as this region is negative values as well, right? It is -1, somewhere here it is 0, somewhere here it is +1. If I go with this format, the total length is 2. Therefore, if I want to make n equal parts, then each subinterval is of length 2 by n. Therefore, here it will be a point, say -1 plus 2 by n and so on. But here we cannot go for 0, and we cannot, means it will be somewhat difficult if I go with this method. Okay. Therefore, what we are going to follow? We are going to follow the strategy that we will make n equal parts of this negative side and n equal parts of this positive side. Therefore, how many parts we will make in all? We will make in all 2n parts. Why? Because for x non-negative the function behaves different, and for x non-positive the function behaves differently. Therefore, as per the nature of the function is different for non-negative and for non-positive, therefore we will make n equal parts of this negative side and of this positive side. Okay, and the partition we will make is, this total length is 2. We want to make 2n parts. Therefore, what will be the length of every interval? 1 by n. Right now, from -1 to 0, the length is 1, and we want to make n equal parts. Therefore, each subinterval is of length 1 by n to this part, and to this part also it is of length 1 by n. Therefore, how should I plot the points on this interval? The next point to -1 will be -1 plus 1 by n. Next point, -1 plus 2 by n, and let me continue this to -1 plus n by n, which is 0. Okay, and those points which are on the left side we will call by x0. Therefore, this is x0, x1, x2, continue. This will be xn. Okay, negative parts we have divided separately. Now let me go for dividing the positive part of the interval. Therefore, again we will make n equal subparts of this interval 0 to 1. Therefore, what will be the point next to 0?
0 plus 1 upon n.
1 upon n. Therefore, shall I write 1 upon n only? 0 plus it is, no? Therefore, this is 1 upon n, 2 upon n, continue up to the last point is n upon n, that is y. Okay. Now we will denote these points on the positive part of the interval with different values, say yi value. Therefore, this is my first, say y0, this is y1, this is y2, and somewhere here let it be yn. Okay. This different kind of partition we are observing, we are doing, because the nature of the function is different for non-negative values and for non-positive values. Therefore, understood the partition of this interval -1 to 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Therefore, let us write the partition. Let the partition of -1 to 1 be. What kind of partition we are following? Capital P is equals to, first point is x0, x1 to xn, but xn is 0, which is nothing but y0, and later we have continued y1, y2 to till yn. Okay, let me write the points as well. What is this point x0? -1.
-1.
x1 -1 plus 1 by n. Let me write one more, -1 plus 2 by n, and continue up to 0, right? And after this 0, this is 1 by n, 2 by n and till 1. Okay. Let the partition of minus 1 to 1 be this, which divides the given interval into 2n equal subintervals. 2n equal subintervals, each of length 1 by n. Okay. Now let us proceed to write down what is xi. What is xi? x1 is minus 1 plus 1 by n. x2 is
minus 1 plus I by n.
yes, this is minus 1 plus I by n for I equals to 1 to n. What is this point yi?
I by n.
I by
Yes,
n.
it is I by n for I equals to 1 to n. Next, what is delta xi and delta yi? Delta xi is the length of every interval x0 to x1, x1 to
1
x2.
by n.
Negative part. Yes, it is 1 by n. What for yi? Delta yi? This is also 1 by n.
It is also
1 by n. This is also 1 by. Let me call this as statement number 1. Okay. Next point is selection of the points, Ti. Okay. Now, as we have made two different partitions of the given interval, one for the positive part and one for the negative part, to the left side we will select the points as Ti, and to the right side let me select the points as Ti dash. Therefore, the point Ti I will select as Xi, and the point Ti dash I will select as Yi. I will select as yi. The second endpoint of every interval. Now we will go for finding the Riemann sum. Any doubt up to this?
no ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Now we will go for finding the Riemann sum. Consider SPF. What is SPF? Now actually this is summation f of Ti delta xi, but as we have divided this partition into two different parts, therefore let me write first for negative part summation I equals to 1 to n f of Ti into delta xi. Similarly, we have made n equal parts of the second on the right part, that is for the positive part. Let me write this is f of Ti dash into delta yi. Okay. See, this is for non-negative part. Sorry, this is for non-positive part. Non-positive part. Okay, and this one is for non-negative part. Now let's just put up the values. What is Ti we have selected? Xi. And what is Ti dash we have selected? Yi. Therefore, this is f of xi into delta xi added with this is f of yi into delta yi. Now, what is f of xi? F for non-positive. Let us look at the definition. F of x is mod x, where mod x is defined as x for non-positive. This is this is non-negative, right? And this is non-positive. For non-positive values, f of x is defined as minus x. For non-negative values, f of x is defined as x. Therefore, here the interval to the first summation and the consideration is for non-positive values. Therefore, what is the function f of xi?
Minus x.
Yes, this is minus xi. Correct? And what for the second one? f of yi is for non-negative values. Therefore, this is simply yi. This is yi into delta yi. Now we have written xi also. What is xi? Minus 1 plus I by n. Yi is I by n. Let me put up both the values. This is minus 1 plus I by n into delta xi summation I equals to 1 to n. This is I by n into delta yi. One can substitute delta xi, delta yi values as well. So this is summation I equals to 1 to n. Let me absorb the negative. This is 1 minus I by n. Delta xi is 1 by n added with summation I equals to 1 to n I by n. This delta yi is again 1 by n. Let me separate this first summation. This is summation I equals to 1 to n 1 by n minus multiplying by 1 by n minus summation I equals to 1 to n I by n into 1 by n added with summation I equals to 1 to n I by n into 1 by n. If we observe, these two summations are exactly same. One is with negative value, another one is with positive values. Therefore, these two terms are going to cancel one another, and we left with summation I equals to 1 to n 1 by n. Instead of writing 1 by n, is it convenient for me to write delta xi? These two are going to cancel one another. No? Reason is delta xi is 1 by n. But what is summation delta xi? Can anyone answer? What is summation delta xi? This one. Sum of all these intervals up to xi is minus 1 to 0. Can anyone answer? What is summation delta xi? x0 to x1, x1 to x2, up to xn. What is the sum of all these? This
1.
is sum at,
1.
yes, it is 1, minus 1 to 0. This total length is 1. So let us write directly summation delta xi, I ranging from 1 to n is 1. If what we have found, SPF is 1. SPF is 1. What is my next step? Taking limit, no? As n tends to infinity. What is the limiting value? There is no n on the right, therefore limiting value is 1 itself. Therefore, may I say limit exists and hence the function is integrable. Thus, the limit exists and the function is integrable. What is the integration value?
1.
1.
Is 1 minus 1 to 1 mod of x dx is exactly equals Am I audible, students?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Screen is also visible, no?
मॅम
Yes,
3
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
व्हिडिओ पोस्ट झालेला.
Okay, fine. Now check. Is the screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me repeat. We are going to prove some applications of Riemann sum, where we have already proved that addition, difference, product, quotient, modulus, and square of the integrable functions is integrable. Also, we have proved the integration of addition of two functions is addition of their respective integrations. This we have proved by using the Darboux theorem, Darboux sum. Now we are going to prove the same thing by using the Riemann sum. The first theorem under this we are going to prove is if f1, f2 and f equal to f1 plus minus f2 are bounded and integrable, then prove that integration a to b f dx is equal to integration a to b f1 dx plus minus integration a to b f2 dx. While proving this earlier, which method we have followed? We have proved, to prove this inequality, we have proved two different inequalities going in opposite direction. That is to prove this equality, once we have proved this left side is less equal by right side, once it is greater equal. Left side we have proved LHS less equal we have proved, and while proving greater equal we have just replaced f by minus f. But in this proof we are going to prove this by using the Riemann sum method. Let us start the proof of this one. As it is given that all the functions f1, f2 and f, where f is equal to f1 plus minus f2 are bounded and integrable. Therefore, we will write the integrability by using the second definition. That is limit SPF exist or mod of SPF minus integration is less than epsilon. First, we will write this and then we will try to prove this result. Integration a to b f dx is equal to integration a to b f1 dx and integration a to b f2 dx. Therefore, let me select an epsilon positive number. Let me write the integrability of both the functions f1 and f2. Given that f1, f2 are integrable, therefore, for epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that for every partition P, let me write the partition x0, x1 to xn with norm P less than delta and for every choice of points Ti in delta xi we have. What is the second definition of integrability? Limit SPF is equal to integration. But here while proving this result, we are going to use the modulus definition. What is the modulus definition? Mod of SPF1 minus integration a to b f1 dx is less than epsilon by 2. Epsilon by 2 is just for the sake of adjustment. That is, what is SPF1? Summation I equals to 1 to n f1 pi into delta xi minus integration a to b f1 dx less than epsilon by 2. Let me call it as statement number 1. Similarly, we will write for the second function f2. Similarly, as f2 is also integrable, one can write sp f2 minus integration a to b f2 dx less than epsilon by 2. What is SPF2? Summation I equals to 1 to n f2 ti into delta xi minus integration a to b f2 dx less than epsilon by 2. Let me call this as statement number 2. Now what we want to generate actually, we want to generate integration. For this, we should add both the inequalities. What will be the effect if I add both the inequalities? Adding 1 and 2. What will happen? Separately modulus we have to add summation I equals to 1 to n f1 ti delta xi minus integration a to b f1 dx added with another modulus summation I equals to 1 to n f2 ti delta xi minus integration a to b f2 dx less than. To the right side we have epsilon by 2, so that this will be epsilon. Now the point I want to do to the next step is I want to combine the modulus. See, this is of the type mod x plus mod y less than epsilon, but we already know that mod of x plus y is less equal by mod x plus mod y. Mod of x plus y is less equal by mod x plus mod y. But if mod x plus mod y is less than epsilon, may I say mod of x plus y is also less than by epsilon?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct, na? Therefore, let me add these two. This is mod x plus mod y less than epsilon. With this result, I can say mod of x plus y is also less than by epsilon. Therefore, let me put this two different modulus in single one. Okay, let me write in the common modulus so that this will be thus mod of summation I equals to 1 to n f1 ti delta xi minus integration a to b f1 dx added with what is the second term? Summation I equals to 1 to n f2 ti delta xi minus integration a to b f2 dx, and still it is less than by epsilon. Next step, we will combine summations together and integrations together. What will happen if I combine the two summations? Some also I am going to take common summation I equals to 1 to n f1 ti added with f2 ti into delta xi minus, let me put both the integrations in one bracket, integration a to b f1 dx added with integration a to b f2 dx less than by epsilon. Now we want to look at this. What this term is going to generate. This we want to identify. For this, let me consider SPF. What is F given to us? Let me first write the proof only for addition. Similarly, we can write for the difference. Therefore, let me start with SPF, F taken to be the addition of two functions. This is summation I equals to 1 to n f of ti into delta xi. Summation I equals to 1 to n. F I am taking f1 plus f2 operated on ti into delta xi. How this function is being operated?
F of ti plus f2 of ti.
Right, f1 ti plus f2 ti into delta xi. Therefore, whatever is this first term of the modulus is nothing but the SPF. Let me put this value in the above equation. Therefore, this term I am going to replace by SPF minus the second term as it is. Therefore, put this in above equation. What the value I am going to get now? This is summation f of ti delta xi, I running from 1 to n, minus integration a to b f1 dx plus integration a to b f2 dx less than by epsilon. Let me call this to be by next statement 1 and 2 I have written. Now I will go for 3. Let me call this as equation number 3. So what we have obtained as an equation number 3, this is SPF actually. No? This value is SPF, which is summation f of ti delta xi. Here I have written already. But already we know that the function f is integrable. Therefore, let me write the definition of f integrable by the second definition of integrability. Therefore, here I will mention also we know that f is integrable. Therefore, by second definition of integrability, by second definition of integrability. What is the second definition of integrability? Help me now. SPF I can write first. SPF minus integration a to b f dx is less than by epsilon. Let me write the value of that SPF. This is summation I equals to 1 to n f of ti delta xi minus integration a to b f dx less than by epsilon. Let me call it as statement number 4. Now look at statement number 3 and 4 carefully. Look at statement 3 and 4 carefully. This is SPF. This is also SPF. Both the statement tells us that limit SPF exists. Equation number 3 tells that limit SPF is this value, integration a to b f1 plus integration a to b f2. Equation number 4 tells that limit SPF is integration here. But as we are saying the function f is integrable, therefore limit exists, na? Limit SPF exists. And whenever we are saying limit SPF exists, the limit should be unique. The limit should be unique. But here we are writing two different limits. Once I am writing this is limit SPF and also we are writing this is limit SPF. But as the limit of the function f SPF exists, therefore these two values must be same. Therefore integration a to b f is equal to integration a to b f1 plus integration a to b f2. Okay. Therefore let me write as limit SPF is unique from 3 and 4. What the limit from 4 tells us? This is integration a to b f dx, and limit from the third is integration f1 plus integration f2. And hence it is the proof for the statement regarding addition. Similarly, by proceeding with the similar arguments, one can say similarly we can prove for the subtraction. Where f we have defined to be f1 minus f2, and hence the proof of the statement. We want to prove the same thing, na? Integration f is integration f1 plus minus integration f2 for f equal to f1 plus minus f2. Any doubt with the proof? What we have done, let me just recall. First we have written the definitions of integrability for F1, F2 by second definition, by Riemann sum definition. So this is equation number 1, this is equation number 2. We have added both the equation in order to get this one, where the first sum F1 Ti, F2 Ti is nothing but summation F of Ti. Therefore, we have obtained the limit SPF as this, but already we know F is integrable. Therefore, limit SPF is having this much value. Therefore, we have obtained two different limits of SPF, but as limit SPF exists, means the limit should be unique. Therefore, equating both the limits of SPF, we have obtained the required result. The theme of the proof is very easy. If you have any difficulty regarding this, you can ask. Otherwise, we will move towards one corollary of the statement. Okay, let us go for the corollary. Corollary of the statement says regarding the linear combinations of the two integrable functions. Let me write the statement. If F1, F2 are integrable, that is F1, F2 belongs to R over closed interval AB. Belongs to R doesn't mean that it belongs to real numbers. This is the collection of all Riemann integrable functions. Capital R is collection of all Riemann integrable functions. And C1, C2 are two constants. Then prove that C1 F1 plus C2 F2 is integrable and integration A to B C1 F1 plus C2 F2 dx is equal to C1 into integration A to B F1 dx plus C2 into integration A to B F2 dx. I think all of us has used this previous statement previously, no? Somewhere in 12th standard also. That is, integration of linear combination is linear combination of the corresponding integrations of the functions. Now we are going to prove the statement by using second definition, Riemann sum definition. Let us start the proof of this statement. For the sake of convenience, I will call this linear combination to be a function f. Let f is equal to C1 F1 plus C2 F2. Now we will write the partition, and with the help of the partition, we are going to write the definition of integrability. For any partition P with norm P less than delta, we have what we have. Here we will check the integrability of f. Therefore, let me start with Riemann sum corresponding to f, that is SPF. What is SPF? Summation I equals to 1 to n f of Ti into delta xi. Let me write what is f. C1 F1 plus C2 F2. Operated on Ti into delta xi. How can I operate this on Ti? Can anyone tell me? How can I operate the linear combination of functions on Ti?
C1 F1 of Ti plus C2 F2 of Ti.
Good. C1 F1 of Ti plus C2 into F2 of Ti into delta xi into delta xi. Now let me separate the sum over the two terms. Taking C1 common as it is independent of I, this is C1 summation I equals to 1 to 1. No doubt, you should not forget to multiply by delta xi. This is F1 Ti into delta xi added with C2 times summation I equals to 1 to n F2 Ti into delta xi. But if I look at the two summations, may I say the first one is nothing but the Riemann sum corresponding to F1, and the
Yes,
second
ma'am.
sum is nothing but Riemann sum corresponding to
F2.
F2. Therefore, this is the relation we have obtained. SPF is C1 SPF1 plus C2 SPF2. Let me call it as statement number 2. Now let us write the definitions of integrability for the function F1, F2. Since F1, F2 are integrable, comma, for epsilon greater than 0, we can choose delta greater than 0 such that for all partitions P with norm P less than delta. Sorry, here it is not necessary to write with norm P less than delta. This is for any partition. Whenever we are writing integrability, then we will impose the condition norm P less than delta we have. What we should have? Let me write second definition of integrability. That is SPF1 minus integration a to b f1 dx less than epsilon. Let me call it as statement number 2. What was second function? SPF2 minus integration a to b f2 dx less than epsilon. Let me call it as statement number 3. Let me call it as statement number 3. Now, anyhow, we want to obtain this kind of structure. C1 SPF1 plus C2 SPF2. Here we have SPF1 and SPF2 with us. What the process I should follow? I should multiply 2 by C1, multiply 3 by C2 and add. Correct, no? Multiplying 2 by C1, multiplying 3 by C2 and adding. Okay, and after adding, I want to put it everything in one modulus. In one modulus. See, here I will show you. Suppose I have mod x less than epsilon, mod y less than epsilon. Now the job we will do is, we will multiply this by C1, this by C2 and add. Then what will happen? This is C1 mod x plus C2 mod y less than by C1 epsilon plus C2 epsilon. C1 epsilon plus C2 epsilon. But for this, can I write C1x plus C2x, C2y, sorry, modulus C1x plus C2y, modulus C1x plus C2y is less equal by students,
C1 into
Epsilon plus C1 into
mod C1x plus mod C2y, mod C1x plus mod C2y, which is again, now if I take C1 C2 to be positive, may I say this is C1 mod x plus C2 mod y less than or equals to C1 mod x plus C2 is combinedly, if this term is less than by C1 epsilon plus C2 epsilon, therefore may I say combined modulus mod of C1x plus C2y is also less than by the same term. The same we are going to do for equation number 2 and 3. We will multiply this by C1, we will multiply this by C2, and we will put everything in the common modulus as I have shown here. Multiply 2 by C1, 3 by C2 and adding. And we are putting everything in a common modulus. Therefore, this is C1 SPF1 plus C2 SPF2 minus, what further this two integration, this is C1 integration plus C2 integration. And put it in the bracket. C1 integration a to b f1 dx plus C2 integration a to b f2 dx, and this is less than by C1 epsilon plus C2 epsilon. C1 epsilon plus C2 epsilon. But what this value is? C1 SPF 1 plus C2. This is SPF from 1. SPF minus C1 integration a to b f1 dx plus C2 integration a to b f2 dx less than by C1 plus C2 times epsilon. Therefore, here may I say the limit SPF exists, and what is the limit value? This is the limit value. Therefore, integration f is nothing but this limiting value. Thus, limit SPF exists and is equal to C1 integration f1 dx plus C2 integration f2 dx. Therefore, what is the value? Or here may I say f is integrable. Thus, limit SPF exists. Thus, f is integrable. And what is the integration value of the function f? Integration value is nothing but this limiting value. Integration f dx is equal to C1 integration a to b f1 dx plus C2 integration a to b f2 dx, and hence the proof of the corollary. Therefore, we have proved f is integrable. What is f? We have taken C1 f1 plus C2 f2. Therefore, the corollary of the theorem we have proved by using Raymond's sum, or second definition of integrability, that integration of linear combination of two functions is linear combinations of the corresponding integrations. We have completed the proof of the corollary. If you have any doubt about this theorem and corollary, you can ask. Students, if you have the doubts, you can ask now. Okay, if you are not having any doubt, we will stop for today. Thank you for watching the lecture.